serve a mighty God out there? Come on, I can't hear you shout to the mighty God we serve. Just tell somebody he's a mighty God. Let's go. Simple song, just lift it up. Say, Lord, you're mighty. 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 Lord, set your glory above the heavens and the earth. When I think of all you made, the sun, the moon, and the stars, no praise is high enough to express how great you are. To the mighty God I serve, the mighty God I serve. Angels, we bow before the mighty God I serve. To the mighty God we serve. My God we serve. Heaven and earth adore the mighty God we serve. So mighty, so mighty, so mighty, so mighty, so mighty, you are mighty, mighty God. Because we serve a mighty God. He's been our strength. Can anybody say he's been my strength? He's been my joy. He's been my bridge over troubled water. He's been my help. He's been my provider. He's been my deliverer, my strong tower. So we lift up this worship to you, our great Redeemer. You are my strength, strength like no other, strength like no other, reaches to me. You are my strength. for your power. Thank you for protection every hour. I want to thank you for your love. Thank you for your power. Thank you for protection every hour. Help me say, I want to thank you for your love. Thank you.
Thank you for your power.
Thank you.
Thank you for protection.
Thank you.
Every hour.
Thank you, Lord.
I want to thank you for your love.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you for your power.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you for protection.
Thank you, Lord.
Every hour. I want to thank you for your love.
'Cause you kept my mind
Thank you for your power.
and you kept my heart.
Thank you for
You
protection.
didn't have to stay here.
Every hour.
You've been a mighty
I want to
God.
thank you for your love.
Thank you.
Thank you for your power.
Thank you.
Thank you for protection.
Thank you.
Every hour.
I want to thank you for your love.
Thank you.
Thank you for your power.
You.
Thank you for protection. Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
Thank you for restoring peace. Thank you for providing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I said thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
You are my strength, strength like no other, strength like no other reaches to me. It reaches to me. He reaches for me. Doesn't matter what I've done, he reaches. Doesn't matter where I've been, doesn't matter where you are right now, he still. Just tell yourself that God loves me and he's reaching. Tell yourself that he'll never leave you and he's reaching. Keep on reaching for me, reaching. Keep on reaching for me, he reaches. Reaches to the highest mountain and he reaches to the lowest valley. Bible says he leaves the 99 and goes straight to the one. You won't leave me up by myself, you keep reaching for me. You won't leave me all alone, you keep reaching for me. You won't forget about me, you just keep reaching for me. You won't walk out on me, you just keep reaching for me. You won't get too busy for me, you keep reaching for me. You won't forsake me, Lord, you keep reaching for me. I have everything I need. I have everything I need. I have everything I need. The great I am provides for me. The great I for me. Yes, he keeps reaching for me. Don't ever let go of his hand. Don't ever let go of his hand. Don't ever let go of his hand. He's reaching for you. He's reaching.
Question. What would you do if you were the only human being on earth that God told when he was going to end the world? And what if you knew it was tonight? You know where you would be? You would be sitting in this church, listening to a downtown Georgia boy from the west side of the ATL preach. You would be in an insane asylum somewhere, losing your mind because that knowledge is too wonderful for a human being. Meaning what? When God hides his perfect timing from me, he's not doing it to hurt me. He's doing it for my good. It's a protective seal. He hides his face. He hides his perfect timing. Here's another thing God hides. He hides his whole plan. There's something we pray that if God answered it, it would destroy our lives. Lord, show me your plan. I believe when we ask God to show us his plan, he sits back on his sovereign throne and laughs. Because he understands we don't even know what we're asking for. Now, why is it that we can't know God's whole plan? Why does he keep his whole plan a secret? God keeps his whole plan a secret because God has this mysterious way of incorporating both good and evil in his whole plan. Wow. What you mean, Reverend? Let me say it this way. God's plan is not whole without good and evil. Meaning only God can manage good and evil to work out for his whole plan. And since we can't understand in our finite minds how evil is a part of his whole plan, he never tells us his whole plan because we can't contain it. And he tried to protect us from this in the beginning. There were two trees in the middle of that garden. One was the tree of life. One was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He said you can eat from every tree you want, all the bananas you want, all the apples you want, all the oranges you want, all the grapefruits you want, every tree you want except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Then you know what Satan does? He slithers in and he makes us think that God is envious of us and that if we were to take and eat from this forbidden fruit, God knows we will be like him. And they looked at the fruit, saw it was good for wisdom, and that it looked tasty. They reached out, took it, and they ate. And at that moment, a secret God tried to keep from us from the beginning was brought into our world. Good and evil. See, it wasn't at that moment that good and evil was invented. At that moment, we became aware of good and evil. And since that moment, it's destroyed our world. How is it that God's plan is not whole unless there is good and evil? Paul has a perspective on this in Romans 8:28 in the English Standard Version, New American Standard Version. He says, and we know that God causes all things to work together for the good. You missed it, let me run that back. And we know that God causes all things to work together for the good. Romans 8:28, New American Standard. Here's what he didn't say, and we know all things are good. He didn't say all things are good. He says we know God causes all things to work out for good. And if we can be honest with ourselves, this mystery of how God uses good and evil is one of the main issues we have with God. If there's anything that makes us doubt his goodness, is how in the world you let evil happen. How you let this happen to me and you didn't get them back yet. Jesus was having a conversation with the disciples in Matthew 16. He said the Son of Man must go and be given over and be killed. Peter rose up and said, nah, hold on, folks. It ain't gonna go down like that. I'm telling you right now. Where you go, I'm going. Anybody put hands on you, don't put hands. I believe Peter was from Atlanta too. When me and overseer Tate, he from the A. Now, G, I'm telling you right now, but for sure, look, anybody put hands on you, what I'm telling you. We know Peter was about that life, because when they came to arrest Jesus, it was Peter who pulled out a switchblade and tried to cut a man in half. The man dodged and he only got the ear. Peter was mad because he ain't used to missing. Jesus says the Son of Man must go, Matthew 16, be given over and killed. Peter says, no, Jesus, that can't happen. Jesus turned to Peter and rebuked him. He said, get behind me, Satan, because you're not about the things of God. You're only thinking about the things of man. Meaning, God's plan has both good and evil in it. Then, the good Son of God let evil, wicked people nail him to a cross. How in the world does God's whole plan have both good and evil in it? I don't know, but I like this secret. You know why? Because my salvation is in this secret. You missed it. I know you're tired for work, but let me run that back one more time. I don't know how in his whole plan he works good and evil out for my good, but I know my salvation is in his secrets. Is there anybody who can testify, Father, I might not know your plan, but I trust your hand, and I don't understand how it's going to help me in the end because it's hurting me right now, but I'm so thankful that my salvation is in your secret. You ought to give God praise for the fact that he'll even use evil in your life for your good. I'm halfway there. Question number one, what are the secret things of God? His face is secret. His perfect timing is secret. His whole plan is secret. That takes us to our second question. Because the verse says that the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those which are revealed belong to us. So then, what are the revealed things? His face is secret, but here's the first thing he reveals. His presence. Even though God hides his face, he reveals his presence. Exodus 33, verse number 14, my presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest. In other words, God hides his face and reveals his presence for the same reason. He loves us. Let me say it this way. God knows we can't live if we see his face. And he also knows we can't live without his presence. So even though he hides his face, he reveals. Listen, I know you don't know me like that, and you got a great pastor who leads you in the things of God, but if you would please let me butt in with your relationship with the Lord Jesus. And I know you need a house, that's on your prayer list, and I know you want a new car, that's on your prayer list, and I know some extra money in the bank is on your prayer list, and I understand that you got a knucklehead son or granddaughter or friend or cousin that you're praying for, that's on your prayer list. But if you can let me butt in real quick between you and your relationship with God, can I suggest to you what's the number one thing on your prayer list every day? You wake up and your 2 feet hit the ground. God, don't let me move from this bed unless I move with your presence. God, don't let me go anywhere because I'm already at work, God. Don't let me walk into any door that you already have it open, God. Don't let me go to work. Don't send my children to school. Don't let me have this commute on I-20 without your presence. Is there anybody who can testify, God, I need your presence like never. Now, to be sure, he is omnipresent. Meaning, he's already everywhere. There is anywhere. So when we say, Lord, show me your presence, we're not saying show up somewhere you haven't been before. Because he's already present everywhere there is anywhere. What we're saying is, God, remove the darkness and the disguise and my boldness to see you in a situation I didn't think you had nothing to do with. Is there anybody who can testify, God, if you just open my eyes, if you just renew my faith, if you just give me discernment, then I'll have a whole new perspective and a whole new outlook. Because I know you're already there, I just can't perceive you. Is there anybody who wants to perceive the Lord in this season in a way that you never have before? Because God, if I lay eyes on you, then my sadness will turn to gladness. Exodus, remember we need the context of the story. Here what the verse says, Exodus chapter 40, verse 36 through 38. Throughout all their journeys, whenever the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the sons of Israel were set out. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set out until the day when it was taken up. For throughout all their journeys, the cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and there was fire in it by night in the sight of all the house of Israel. Exodus chapter 40, 36 through 38. What we see described here can be defined as the Shekinah glory of God, the manifest presence of God. When we read about these people who left Egypt on the way to the promised land, they didn't have an iPhone, they didn't have a GPS system, they didn't have an Android. What they had was a cloud by day and a fire by night. It was no highways, no interstate, no maps. They couldn't stop and ask nobody how to get where they were going. What they had was a cloud by day and fire by night. And what would happen is, as the cloud moved, they would move. As the fire moved, they would move. They weren't afraid of the darkness because they had the fire. They weren't afraid of the light because they had the cloud. Whenever the cloud would stop, they would all stop, build their tents, set up the tabernacle, and worship there as long as the cloud stayed. They wouldn't budge. They could care less if it was lit over there. They could care less if it was more fun over there. They could care less if they got frustrated being here too long. If the cloud didn't move, they didn't move. Then, when the cloud lifted up, it didn't matter if they weren't ready to go. It didn't matter if they had some schedule to do later that day. It didn't matter what their plans were for later that evening. When the cloud went up, when the fire went up, they would take up their tents, take up the tabernacle, put it on their shoulders, and start walking. Why? Because they understood what that great prophet Ludicrous said one day. When I move, you move just like that. Is there anybody who can testify, God? That's the kind of life I want. That's my favorite here. Matter of fact, when I move, you move just like that. God, I want your cloud and your fire in my life to lead me and to guide me. Is there anybody who can testify, God, as I walk through this desert land, as I walk through this barren place, as I traverse the wilderness of my experience, would you never leave me? Would you grab me by the hand and lead me? Lord, give God praise for the fact that he'll never leave you, but he'll lead you. He hides his face, but he reveals his presence. He hides his perfect timing, but then B, he reveals his imminent timing. What you mean by imminent, brother? Imminent means almost about to finna happen. Because see, God won't tell you exactly when he's going to do something. He'll just give you signs that the time is near, so you better get ready. See, a lot of us get frustrated with God, and we think it's driving us crazy not to know when he's going to move. You're not crazy. That's just impatience. If you really knew everything he was going to do, when he was going to do it, you would go crazy. Then you would be an impatient. The reason God tells us it's near and doesn't tell us it's now is because getting ready proves our faith. See, some of us are saying, God, if you tell me now, then I'll get ready. He says, no, if you get ready, then I'll tell you now. This concept of timing is right nestled in this story. Because God took these people out of Egypt. He told them, y'all are going to go over to the promised land. That's what I'm leading. Dueteronomy chapter 1 verse number 2 tells us that this journey should have taken 11 days. Everybody say 11 days. 11 days. Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse number 2 says 2 weeks tops is what it should have took for all these people to walk from Egypt through the wilderness to the promised land. 2 weeks max. 11 days is what Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse number 2 says. But in our chapter 29 verse 5, Moses said, I've led you 40 years. And then, hold on. What you mean 40 years? How in the world, in the beginning of Deuteronomy, it should have took 11 days. Now, at the end of Deuteronomy, you're talking about it took 40 years. Then, God says in Deuteronomy chapter 2, he says, you have circled this mountain long enough. You think? See the scene? They're walking, following the cloud, on a trip that should have taken 11 days. Then that cloud keeps going around the same mountain. And a trip that should have taken 11 days ends up taking 40 years. And then when God gets ready to move, he says, okay, long enough. Dream long enough. It's been 39 years and 50 weeks longer than it should have taken for us to make this trip. God, why in the world would your timing be so drastically different? Why is it taking me a long time to do what it should have taken me a short time to accomplish? Why is it taking me forever to get that it should have only taken me a short time to get to? How did you take an 11-day journey and extrapolate that out to 4 decades and then say long enough? Long enough for what? Long enough for faithlessness to die and faithfulness to be reborn. Why did it take him so long? Because there was one generation that was faithless. He said, I'm going to tell you what, you're going to walk around this mountain till all the faithless folk die and all the faithful folk come alive. In other words, if you're mad at God because his timing is not yet happening in your life, you trying to figure out why is it taking you so long to do what should have taken a short time to accomplish. Could it be that God is waiting on faithlessness to die in you and faithfulness to be reborn? You mad at God, God mad at you. He said, how dare you not believe me after all I've done for you? How dare you not believe me after I opened up a Red Sea? Did you see the 10 plagues? His imminent timing. I used to be so mad with my mom because back in the day when me and my 3 younger sisters would be left home while she was at work, she would give us responsibilities to do. Because I was the oldest, she would say, Darrell, you're responsible for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're also responsible to make sure that your sisters complete 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So she would leave and go to work, and she would leave us with a list of things to do for the day. And we should have been wise enough to go ahead and finish at the top of the day. What Mama gave us, so we had the rest of the day to play. Chill. That's not what we did. We're from the hood. We got that thing backwards. We played all day. And then we started to do the seasons change. Because see, she told us, have it done before I get back. She didn't say have it done by this time. We knew about what time she got off, and we knew about how long it took to drive from work to home, but we didn't know exactly when she was going to show up. And so when we realized that seasons were changing and we realized that the time was drawing near and we understood her presence was on its way back, we then started to get some act right. We stopped playing around, we stopped acting a fool, and we started trying to do the things Mama told us to do. And you know how it is, when she walked in the door, she catch me wiping down the table. Hey Mama, how you doing? I come to talk to somebody trying to hide from God. You gotta listen to things he's called you to do. And you mad at him because he won't tell you now when he's telling you just get ready. He said, I gave you this to do. All I'm going to tell you to do is have it done before I return. I hope you can discern the seasons. I hope you can tell by the wars and rumors of wars. I hope you can tell by the pandemics that are spread all over. I hope you can tell by the unrest that the time is drawing near. By now, children, we all stop playing. By now, children, we all put up the toys. By now, children, we all turn off the games and finally get serious about the things of God. Why? Because the time is drawing near. Is there anybody who can testify? Father, come on and get us. We're tired of the injustice. but he reveals his presence. He hides his perfect timing, but he reveals his imminent timing. He hides his whole plan, but he reveals his current plan. The verse says, the secret things belong to our God, the things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. We're coming at the end of this book and the end of his life. Both represent the same thing. God's law. Everybody say law. Law. Now, when we think law, we hear 10 commandments. But the law is way more vast than that. It's rumored to be, some theologians believe, it's over 600 laws in the Old Testament to govern life in Israel. Laws about everything. Laws about cleanliness, laws about ceremonial rites, laws about birth, laws about defects, all of the above. Why? Because God was trying to show his people through these laws that I care about what you do in every area of your life. He didn't set up these laws to be a spiritual scorecard that if I did more than you did, then I'm better than you. He set up these laws to say, in every area of your life, I got something to say about that too. Okay. Question, what do you do now when you don't know what God is going to do next? When God doesn't tell me his whole plan, but all he gives me is his current plan. What do I do now? But I don't know what he's going to do next. He says, let me tell you what you do now. When you don't know what I'm going to do next, do whatever now you think will bring me the most glory. It says these things have been revealed to us and our children that we may do all the words of this law. See, what we do is we look to next week and wonder if we're going to have enough money to make rent. And he said, no, today, Thursday, I want you to stop lying on folks on Thursday. We look ahead in November in fear that Trump may get another 4 years. He said, stop worrying about what's next. I need you to worry about what's now. Today, Thursday, stop holding grudges. He looked forward to the next 30 days tripping about what the coronavirus is going to do. He said, stop worrying about what's next. I need you to deal with what's now. Forget it. Right now. We get mad because we don't know what tomorrow holds. He said, stop worrying about tomorrow because you may not be there. I will. All you got is today. You need to do today what's going to be. I believe that we would quail or bring peace to the anxiety that has gripped our world if we stop looking at what's next and just worry about what's now. Give me this day my daily bread. Help me to glorify you too. Stop worrying about what's next. When we were younger, not only would my mom give us chores, but then she would reward us once we had accomplished those chores. And she would put us in the car and take us somewhere to do something fun. Now what she would do is she would get in the car, put me and my sisters in the back seat, and just start driving. How dare she? Who does she think she is? To get in the car she owns, with the children she birthed, and take us somewhere without telling us where we're going. How dare she? So you know what I would do, the inquisitive child I would ask, Mama, where we going? She would say, in classic black mama fashion, with me. So you know what I would try to do, as smart as I would try to predict, based upon the current route, which way we were going, and what are the possibilities of buildings we could be going to. Then we would pass by the buildings I thought we were going to, and I would get frustrated and say, Mom, where are we going? And she'd turn around and say, with me. And she'd keep on driving. So they had to realize something. I didn't need to know where I was going, as long as the me who was taking me there would abandon me on the journey. Because she did everything I Because we need to do fun things together. When we're tired from fighting, when we're tired of video games, when we're tired of hiding no seat, we generally sit down together and watch movies. I was so glad back in December when the Spirit of the living God moved in the most miraculous way to ordain the manifestation of the magnificent revelation that has come to be known as Disney Plus. I said, yes to your will, God. Yes to your way. Yes, I will go, and yes, I will obey. In the first week, we signed up for the 1-year subscription. We started to watch movies. Now, you may not know this, but my favorite movie of all time is Lion King. If I had time, I could recount the whole movie line by line, but we out of time, so let me cut to the chase. I like this movie because this movie ends with an apocalypse. A revelation. You know the story when Rafiki comes to find this lost king Simba, who doesn't know his true identity. Through a series of piquing his interest and some funny things happening with the clouds, he ends up running across the savannah back home to the Pride Lands. He arrives on the outskirts of the Pride Lands, and what he beholds brings sadness to his heart. He looks out and he sees a barren wasteland, no more green grass, no more animals grazing, no more water, darkness. Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa come and join him soon thereafter, and they ask, what is this? And Simba said, Timon, this is my home. Then Timon says, talk about a fixer-upper. Just like you laughing, it was some laughing hyenas that was running around. And they were trying to figure out schematically how we're going to get around some hyenas. Simba said, we're going to use live bait. Pumbaa realized he was a live bait. So Pumbaa and Timon had to go do this song and dance. He had an apple in his mouth, and they baited these hyenas off of the trail into a crevice in order to chase them so that Simba and Nala could run up to Pride Rock. When they got to Pride Rock, it was right in the nick of time. Because the devil, Scar, had been king now for so long that darkness covered the land. His mother, Sorabi, was tired of him. He summons her, and when she told him he was half the king Mufasa was, he turned around and backhanded her and knocked her down to the hard bottom of Pride. There she lay, rock bottom, gripped by sadness because the devil was in charge. And then Simba came running around the mountain, and she saw an apocalypse. She said, Simba? She said, no, Mufasa? Scar said, Mufasa, no, it's impossible. You're dead. Simba went up to his mom, looked at her and said, no, it's me. And she said, Simba? Let me run that back. She thought this king was dead. She thought she was abandoned to the devil's authority. She thought she was lost in darkness. She thought this wilderness would persist forever. She thought death was imminent. She hit rock bottom. She was in a painful place where she couldn't pick herself up. And then all of a sudden, the apocalypse of a living king that she thought was dead revived her. Let me run that back. She was in a dark situation she thought she couldn't overcome. She was under the auspices of the devil for so long that darkness had covered the land. There was no greenery. There was no grass. It was all death. She thought it was over. Then she hit rock bottom on Pride Rock, and she saw an apocalypse of a king she thought was dead that she realized was still alive. And you know what happened when she saw this revelation? When she saw the manifestation of a king who walked on Pride Rock, all of a sudden she stood up. She pumped her neck. She stretched to the left, stretched to the right. She summons the rest of the lionesses, and she knew that victory was already hers. Now, how did she know she was victorious? It was still dark outside. How did she know she was victorious? Nothing had grown back yet. How did she know she was victorious? It hadn't even started raining. How did she know she was victorious? The devil was still in charge. How did she know she was victorious? They still had
revelation turned her sadness into gladness. I'm gone. When she saw a king who she thought was dead, but he was still alive, she had a whole new will to fight. I come to talk to somebody who's hit rock bottom. I come to talk to somebody who's been living in darkness. I come to talk to somebody who's been living in sadness. Revelation chapter 1 says, here is the revelation, the apocalypse of Jesus Christ. Is there anybody who can testify? I'm glad that my King lives, not King Simba, but King Jesus. And I know I got the victory because he